Welcome to It's Just Middle School with Sarah and
Kelly. If you're joining us for the first time today, we are two fabulous veteran middle school teachers with middle schoolers of our own that love talking about middle school.
Our passion is to support parents and educators in understanding the middle school years through research, experience, and casual conversation.
If you're returning to our show, welcome back. Let's jump into this episode's buzzword.
Social emotional learning.
Let's clarify the definition of SEL and where it comes from.
What is it intended to look like in practice?
And is it harmful or helpful to a student's learning growth?
Excellent! Party time! Don't get stressed!
Scenario 1. As a parent, you are checking on your child's grades so far in his classes. You notice that something is amiss. You know your child has worked hard all week in completing a project or studying for a test or getting his homework done, but you notice that the work is not given credit or is extremely low in score. You open up a conversation with your child and all you are getting is a shrug of the shoulders and slight tears in their eyes. They seem to be really struggling with finding the words to describe their feelings. What do? You email the teacher to set up a conference to see what is going on.
Or, as a teacher, you notice the student working hard, leading up to a test or project. You notice they're doing everything possible, putting in 100% effort. You really believe they're going to do well. But then the day comes and you notice a change in behavior. Something's just off. But you can't put your finger on it. You ask the child if everything is okay, and the student responds with a nod. But the deer in headlights look gives you an uneasy feeling, and you make a mental note of the behavior in the back of your mind. Once you grade the assignment, project, or test, you notice that the child did not do as well as you hoped. What do? You email the parent to set up a conference to see what's going on. Scenario 2, parent perspective. Your child, Lucy, slowly pops in the car at the end of the day. You ask her how her day was. And all of a sudden, she starts sobbing hysterically, sharing how Susie, her best friend, is starting sitting with a new group of friends at lunch. She's not texting her anymore, and she's just been excluding her out of things at school. Your child's tears are streaming down her face, and your heart is just feeling all the pain for your child. And she looks at you and says, "Mom, I don't know what I did. Why doesn't she like me anymore? She's my best friend. Why is this happening?" You decide to email her group of teachers and see if they've noticed anything that's going on. Your daughter needs to be included.
Or, from the teacher's perspective, at lunch you notice both Lucy and Susie aren't sitting together anymore. They were always together at the beginning of the year. Now you notice Susie is hanging out with a different group, acting a little different towards Lucy. Not really mean, just not at all, as if they were complete strangers. Lucy looks a little sad and seems lonely. You aren't really aware of any conflict that occurred, but at your grade level meeting you mention it to the other teachers to just keep an eye out. Should you email Lucy's mom and give a heads up and see if there's been any notice at home? So Kelly, when we've been doing a couple episodes, and we always start off with these scenarios, and I feel like I have to bring this up about our scenarios seem to always have something to do with students crying. I feel like because this is our social emotional learning piece, I feel like I need to be more aware of our own writing.
Do you know? It's kind of just because those are the things that stick out to us. Like, those are the things that hurt our hearts.
It is true.
So we notice those things.
That is true.
Those are the things that get your attention. Although the smell of middle school and
middle school's full of humor. It is full of humor.
And the fart jokes.
And the fart jokes.
And the Skibidi Riz toilets.
Have you ever had a student?
There's also the potty humor.
The
apparently.
potty humor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we just wanted to put that out in the air before we talk about
it's not just
the
tears.
Social emotional.
There's lots of laughter.
There is lots of laughter. We're going to include more laughter, I feel like, in our next scenarios. I just feel there's a lot of crying, and there's not It's not about surviving, it's about thriving in middle school.
But if you've seen the movie Inside Out,
Yes, that's a great one.
That really, like, all of her emotional worlds, and that's kind of what social emotional learning is all about.
Mm-hmm.
That balancing act of all of the feelings that are happening in their world.
Yes, so let's talk about our scenarios. Going back to it. So we apologize if it seems like too much crying. We promise it's not all about crying. It is not, I mean, this idea of not being clear on where a student is emotionally is kind of the root of all middle school approach, right? Like, you don't know where the student is, what they're thinking, where they are, because of all the growth that happens in these years. And so, like that film Inside Out you mentioned, there are all sorts of unfamiliar, complex emotions invading the brain of a middle schooler. So it truly takes a village to figure out what's going on. And so in both of our scenarios, depending upon what perspective, both perspectives come up with a conclusion of having a conversation. Like, what does someone else notice? To kind of get at what is happening with this student or child. That might be obstacle, but it might also be a joy that is worth celebrating or noticing, observing, or intervening on.
So whatever the case may be, middle school is about supporting students in navigating their emotions. It's not really telling them how to feel or what to feel in situations, but allowing them to experience and learn what the next appropriate step may be to handle those emotions, and giving them the tools to feel growth in learning about themselves, material, and really just kind of being a good human.
And now for a wee bit of research.
So in today's research, we're going to kind of take a deep dive back into history a little bit to talk about where SEL kind of got its origin started and why we're hearing a little more about it today. We also know that this can kind of have some different political views when you really dive deep and look at it. And we're just hoping through research we can really have an unbiased opinion about it and just kind of give you several different points of view. So, in the 1960s, a gentleman by the name of James Comer began his now famous work on examining ways to improve academic achievement in low-income youth. He studied the relationship between experiences at home and school, and how that affected students' academic achievement. Through the research, he established the Comer process, which helps students engage in learning by fostering relationships between students, parents, and educators. The process also promotes a positive school climate and focuses on ensuring that children feel comfortable, valued, and secure. The process was piloted in 2 schools, and a longitudinal research showed it contributed to 2 changes in academic achievement. Grades and academic performance increased, and behavior issues decreased. I mean, who wouldn't want those side effects, right?
Yeah, and I think that kind of outcome really lends itself to, there was a teacher, learner, researcher named John Dewey prior to Comer, but in the same kind of contemporary of him, that talked about all this experiential learning and how good it was for academic achievement. And James Comer comes along and creates a study that shows that academic achievement is increased when there is a environment that fosters sort of this comfortability, the sense of value, the sense of security in students.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So then over the next 50 years, kind of landing on the term SEL in 1997, we get these terms like whole child learning and character-based education, where really a framework of the soft skills start emerging.
And these skills were formally introduced and given guidelines by the Collaborative for Academic, Social, Emotional Learning Association. And those guidelines included concepts like self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. The premise still centered on establishing a positive space and place for students to learn individually and collaboratively, And research time and time again has backed up the positive impact SEL skills have had on academic progress. So then, if this is true, why is it getting more attention now in the 2020s than it had 20 years ago?
Well, we found 3 major changes that have really impacted our youth and really just social interaction all at once, like in the past 5-10 years.
5-10, yeah.
Our kids experienced COVID, and so did we.
Yes.
You know, a lot of our anxieties and worries were being funneled down. We constantly have an increase in school shootings. I mean, we just had one here in our state this week. Was that this week?
That was this past week.
It feels like a long week.
In a couple weeks.
And then increased access to social media. Mm-hmm. I mean, they can check social media almost any time in their pockets or on the device that they use. So SEL was a method of response for educators that came with a toolbox to navigate the aftermath of these events and occurrences. And then you throw some AI into the equation, and the future has never been more unpredictable as far as what skills are needed and what competencies are going to equate to success. Mm-hmm. I mean, that can bring
That's
up
like
a lot
loaded 5 years, right? Because I mean, you have all of these feelings that students and teachers and all the stakeholders are feeling coming inside the school. We mentioned Inside Out earlier. Fabulous movie. Love it. It's like the middle school epitome of the middle school experience.
100%. If you haven't seen it, see it.
Yes, with all these feelings. And in the last 5 years, you have a lot of external factors coming into the school, almost like the outside is coming in. See what I did there? Inside out, outside in. But it's true. I mean, you have a lot of external things coming into the class where SEL can benefit in figuring out how to handle all of these feelings. Not dwell in it. I don't want to say dwell in it because that's not healthy. But to figure out.
But they're still feeling these feelings. So we do need still like those self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and figuring out how to be responsible about the decisions we're making, just like SEL states that we need to do. But there's almost like a lack of boundaries with this outside coming in.
Yes, I think when COVID happened, you had a lot of those boundaries being crossed and kind of being blurred, and then and necessary so, right? Like necessarily so. But still it was, okay, now the classroom is going into the home environment of the teacher, and the teacher is going to the home environment of the student, and the parent is going to be on the computer with the student and the child, and we get to see things that we would not see in the classroom. I had a friend of mine that had... She was parent teaching, which was the hardest for all you teacher parents out there. That was the hardest time, right? And so she had 2 little ones that she was Zooming with her students, and she had 2 little ones in the background, and they were getting ready to go take a bath. They were buck naked on the screens, and there's nothing she could do with middle school students watching.
That was one thing that happened in our world too.
Yeah.
My daughter, who was 3 at the time, whoosh, little streaker across the screen. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry, y'all. But that is a true statement. And if she ever listens to this one day, she's going to be mortified that I told that story. But yes, so boundaries. But I think with the parent teacher aspect of it, is there's this like, we want an immediate response from both parties almost.
Yeah.
Like we want an immediate response, and also the students, they, you know, when we were in school, you know, if you did an embarrassing thing, you could go home and it would kind of get squashed for 4 or 5 hours till you went to bed. Like maybe your best friend called you and you like discussed it, or
forgot about it.
Maybe you were 3-way called with like 2 of your best friends. And you know, you hashed out what you were going to do if it was brought up tomorrow. But no one was recording it. Yeah, no one was posting it on Snapchat or Instagram or like you weren't having to wait until the next thing came out to undo the socialness of yours. There was no comparison factor you had to worry about.
Right.
But they have to deal with that. Like
Right.
sometimes what the embarrassing thing that happens at school doesn't get forgotten about. It's out there over and over and over.
And you see those boundaries getting lost too. And this might be a digression of some kind, but not really, I promise. The idea of, because these things happen in this new world of technology that we have that brings the outside world in, the boundary between school and home is also very blurred. And so you do have, if something happened on a weekend, there might be ramifications for at school. So in those, that idea of lost boundaries, I think students today, different from when we were students, is that their emotions it's so easy to dwell on an emotion.
Right, because there's no place they get to stop
Yes.
feeling a certain thing and transition to a new feeling. It's like when embarrassment happens at school, and maybe it gets recorded because they have phones now and they have video access, and then that gets posted when they get home or even on their walk and they see it again.
And their mom or dad might find out about it and they email about it and say, "Are you okay?" And then it never stops, like you said.
Right. Until something else gets recorded and becomes the new thing.
Right.
So I think where SEL can really have a benefit is when we can help students figure out how to navigate the feelings that they're feeling this. Yes, embarrassment is okay to feel. Like, that's a good thing. Embarrassment allows us to not do something stupid in the future. Like, that's an okay feeling. It's supposed to be there. You can feel sad about something that's on there. Like, that's an okay feeling. But then to be self-aware, and then what do we do next with this feeling? I
Right.
think is sometimes that we don't give kids don't get the opportunity to experience because it's there for so long.
Right, and I also think this, not necessarily to say that a feeling is okay or if it's not okay, but that that's a common experience,
Yes.
right? Like we all have felt embarrassed, we all have felt sad, we all have felt, and these are common emotions. And then how to
And they're gonna be okay.
redirect. And they're going to be okay,
Right.
right?
They're going to be okay because of this.
Right. And I think that's where SEL can help navigate students. I have a question for you, Kelly.
Yes.
As a teacher, what is in your SEL toolbox that works really well?
Well, I think just listening a lot
Yeah.
of times, just being there to listen.
Yeah.
And I know, like, establishing relationships is one of those words that's out there. But I do think having the relationship with your students where they know that they can come to you if they need to, and that you're going to listen and help them figure out what a next step is, but not like be over dramatic about it in a way. I know at our school, we actually use the program Habitudes, which is full of great tools. It's not like this is what you should do. This is what you should do. But it's just, how would you handle this?
Yeah.
And they give you scenarios on what you could do in different ways and allow you or the student who's going through the program to figure out what is the right choice. Because
open
there is
discussion.
one.
Yeah.
It's where you can create discussion. And I think when you can create a safe space to have discussions, you're able to pull a lot more out of your students about right choices. Because most of the time, they know what the right thing to do is.
Oh, yeah. And as an English teacher, when we're reading books, they pull out the moral characters, the right choice, the
Yeah.
righteousness behind all the protagonists and whatnot. So English teachers sort of have like a already built-in
you guys get to
empathy,
pull lots of
understanding.
cool
We
things.
can, but one of the easy,
It's like you can't really do that with y equals mx plus b.
one of the things that I love doing is using that metaphor of the threshold, the door, right? Because when they walk in your room, it's a completely new space. And so many, I know there are teachers in elementary school that do this. They have like the emotions or emojis on their door, and they have the child like depressed, what are they feeling, or what they want as they walk in. Do they want a high five? Do they want a hug? You know, that's really cool. As a middle school teacher, that's a little too young. But to be at the door and give them a fist bump as they walk in, or say an overjoyed hi, and I'm so excited that you're here, I think just helps redirect any emotions that are being dwelled upon.
It's that new feeling, new space.
New feeling, new space. And I hope that happens anyway. So that's a quick thing. But I do think there are programs that schools have to help with those discussion worthy topics, such as habitudes that you're talking about. I think it's always good for parents to kind of look at what those programs are. If it's an advisory program, what are the topics being discussed? So it becomes a discussion between not only the school but the parents, and those boundaries are not blurred, but they are we're more of a cohesive unit as stakeholders of the child's growth. They're all on the same page. I think
and that's really what Comer was trying to get across, is that this is a student, parent, and educator thing. It can't just be done from one side or the other. Right. Because again, like, as teachers, we are not medical health professionals. Like, we are not in that place.
I can talk a whole bunch about, like, any protagonist of any book. I can really go in depth over the Graveyard Book. I can go in depth over Holes and Stanley Yelnats, sure. But if you ask me to talk about real world experience, I don't know about that. You've got to keep the boundary. Speaking of.
But I think that as teachers, we just really try and create the conversations so that they can have that safe space to figure things out.
Right.
And I think you have to figure out as parents, ask what SEL program your school uses, if there is one, so you can kind of check it out and just be aware of what's going on and the topics.
And SEL might be hidden in an advisory program or a character sort of value-driven.
It might not be worded as
SEL, but that is what those programs are for. And there's a book out there by Abigail Schreier called Bad Therapy. Highly recommend it. So you know what I think as parents, what the red flags are, what can be harmful when SEL is taken and
too far almost.
Too far.
Right. Too far. When I think it's almost when we rely on it a little too much.
Yeah.
To do the coping at school. And one of the things she just talks about is when we introduce new symptoms, or when we make existing symptoms worse by the language that we use, when we replace worry with like anxiety, and when we exchange sadness for depression, and again, those things are real, and I'm not saying that any of your students might not really be feeling those.
And I'm all about elevated language when it comes to writing a paper. All about that. But when it comes to expression of what is a commonplace emotion and then what is uncommon, I think those boundaries are blurred a little bit sometimes.
Yes. We not every child who is experiencing sadness is depressed. Not every child that's just really worried has anxiety. And that's where she kind of talks about the language that students hear a lot is language that they are accepting as their own. So kind of having, again, the word boundaries, those distinct boundaries on, I think maybe in this moment, you might just be feeling sad. You're not depressed. And again, I'm not trying to like undermine depression and anxiety. Those are real things. And if you believe your child is experiencing those, please go get them the right help that they need. But we also want to make sure we're not normalizing the word depression, and we're not
normalizing extremes, because then
extremes. Thank you.
Because then what? Where's the next extreme? Where do we go from there? We have to have those extremes to navigate different levels and of that experience, of that feeling. So
and schools might not be the right place.
Yeah.
For that.
Right, because there's a reaction and a need to...
Like there's real health professionals
yes.
out there that can make those diagnoses.
Yes.
Diagnoses. Yes.
Yeah. I really liked Abigail Schrey had an interview with Mark Manson, and there was this really good moment about distinguishing the SEL that it's experienced differently than it had in the early 2000s with the influx of social media platforms. So in that interview, there was a moment where that recognition that technology has shifted the definition of SEL
Right.
from the 2000s to now. And so we see that because these feelings are felt in various spaces and for elongated time frames. But if we go back to the root of SEL, I think it can work.
Absolutely.
Right? With understanding when it's helpful as teachers, understanding when it's needed, and just being in the same, I think, same space as the student.
Right.
So,
and I think sometimes as parents, we also need to remember that sometimes when teachers are correcting or gently warning your child of a different way, it is kind of implementing these social emotional learning skills. It's not necessarily that we're telling them that what they're doing is horrible. It's just saying, hey, look
Here's
at it from
another
a
way to think
different
of it.
point of view. Like when you say this to someone else, how are they taking that? That's not your child getting in trouble. But sometimes
a learning experience.
kids do say,
Yeah.
I got in trouble from so-and-so today because they told me not to handle this way. And it's not a trouble point. It's just trying to be aware. And that's where these little
and giving
little
them the
things
language,
get
giving
put
them the
on.
language to kind of navigate.
Right. And I think those are the moments that teachers really do SEL. It's in the moment.
Right.
It's really trying to get students to social interact with others in a different way. Like you can't talk to someone like that in person. Like read the expression on their face. They don't like that. And I think sometimes kids do feel a little hurt.
Yeah.
And get a little like, well, why are you telling me I can't do that?
Yeah.
When it's not us trying to get them in trouble. It's just giving them a different tool in their toolbox.
A different way. And whether it works, that'll be up to them to navigate too. But they'll have the experience to try it out and to test what works for them. I think that's what middle school is all about, is figuring out what works for them. We've talked about learning growth and learning differences, and but this is on the social end. SEL is the social difference, and navigating those friendships and relationships in ways that are healthy.
So let's bring you up to speed. SEL, or social emotional learning, really focuses on those 5 frameworks we talked about: bringing self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making.
So, totally, SEL equips students and young people with the abilities required to succeed in life, both at school and beyond.
Doodly-doo, doodly-doo, doodly-doo. We're not worthy.
For all you Wayne's World enthusiasts, you might have caught our lovely doodly-doo. In today's episode on social emotional learning, we talk a great deal about balancing between emotions and of the middle school and having that feel like a balance. So we thought we would give you some hippy-dippy advice inspired by Wayne's World to find that balance. So we're going to use it as an acronym. Ready? So B. Balance means, Kelly, take it away.
Breathing strategies, helping find your center, just kind of calming down those emotions when they start kind of running in extreme directions. Just kind of focusing inward and giving a new focus, really.
And there are all
Honestly,
sorts of
focusing inward,
breathing strategies out there. My favorite app to use or site to use as a reference is Go Noodle. It's been used for a number of years.
We used
but
that a lot during COVID.
yes, and I think it's really helpful. I mean, my favorite breathing breath is the bunny breath, where you pinch your nose and you breathe in like a quick, like it's like almost hyperventilating, but it looks so it's really quite fun.
Can you see like a class of kids doing that right now?
It's very, I can't do it well, but the kids do it well better.
Well,
much
my
better.
Fitbit has a little breathing thing on it that I can just scroll to, and it's like this little light that kind of makes a circle, and you breathe out as it expands, and you breathe in as it contracts, and it's just a little 2-minute breathing exercise.
Yeah, refocuses the mind.
So there's lots of different breathing strategies and different types that just refocus the brain.
Yeah. A would be for aromatherapy. Now, don't laugh. I think understanding the smell and the scent and having that
aromatherapy.
because it like brings back memories. It really transports you to another place, and most likely a positive place if it's a good scent, right? Like I wouldn't put fart smell in a room, but I would put
Definitely not a room of middle schoolers. It's already there.
It's already there. But I would put lavender or vanilla or something of that triggers some happiness, some positive memory. So the baking of warm bread that that makes you feel cozy and loved, and I think that can help refocus the mind as well.
And I have a diffuser in my class that I put like peppermint in, or I have another smell that I cannot remember what the name of it is at the moment, but it's like a cinnamon-ish kind of thing.
I have a diffuser, but I also have a smelly spray that I spray just in case someone does rip one in the middle, which has happened. We are talking about middle school.
I'm grateful that this year my students go to PE at the end of the day, so they don't come back to my room after that, because 7th graders after PE, we need some aromatherapy after that.
And then L, laughing with, not at. Inviting humor into your classroom, not just you trying to be funny. I know that, I try to be funny. It doesn't always work, but really to laugh with the students when they are,
or laugh with your kid.
Yeah. Or, when they are trying a new pun or two, or maybe a dad joke that they're throwing out there, or, I think it's really important to find humor in the day.
It can be really funny for parents to throw out some of the Gen talk that is out there right now. Like, throw a Skibidi toilet at them and see what they do. The laughter after they roll their eyes at you will probably be pretty funny.
Bet.
And then just yes. No,
that's my new word.
Mm-hmm. So laughing with them and actually helping them to realize they can laugh at themselves.
Yes.
Is really important, because they feel so judged during the day, and they're not being judged. It's just this egocentric world that they're in the life of middle school. But
it's
just
their world.
Turning it around and allowing them the space to laugh at themselves. It is really important in this stage. A, accountability for feelings. And for me, this kind of resonated with there are consequences for the actions involved in our feelings. Right. And it's okay to have high standards or high expectations, and that not allowing our feelings to always control what you want the outcome to be. Allowing the realization to be there, that there is accountability for the way that we're feeling, and let them know and kind of talk through what could happen if those feelings erupt, or if we're not using them carefully.
Yeah, and I think modeling accountability is key too as adults. I am sorry that I snapped at you, kiddo, the other day. I was very stressed out, but not stressed out anymore.
That
right?
happened yesterday. Oh, the bickering between my two kids was a lot, and I just was like, there is no TV until after 5. You guys have lost it. You're driving me crazy. And yeah, there was a snap moment, and I laid some pretty heavy consequences down. And then we had a conversation about it an hour later after I ate, because I realized I was hangry. And then my 7th grade son was like, "It's okay, Mom. We were all a little emotional at that point in time. I understand." And I was like, who is the adult here? But I started with, I'm really sorry that I overreacted. I really do think it was overreaction. So there you go. The modeling accountability piece is important. Maybe your child will tell you it's okay too.
Yes, perhaps. And then N is for namaste. So trying yoga, and this idea of bringing it to a center, bringing it to a peace, but this idea also of combining those breathing strategies with movement of the body, the strength of mind and strength of body as well. This idea of gratitude is in namaste as that you could take on too, just being grateful for what's around, what exists, and excited for what comes next, right? So namaste is in gratitude and is in peace of mind.
Yeah. And it also gives your body and your brain, a different focus. When you have to try some of the poses in yoga, you can't focus on anything else except what you're doing. So it redirects the energy to a new space. And then C, counseling from an external source. The balancing of middle school emotions can range in a variety of degrees. And if there is a point where you feel that your student needs additional resources, please seek professional help. Teachers want to help, and we can make observations and we can give you support, but we are not trained in all of the areas of mental health that might be needed.
Especially in the language of mental health. I mean, we can observe from the standpoint as a teacher in the language of a classroom, right? But that language that is geared towards more severe understandings of emotions, we are not, as teachers, we are not trained professionals there.
And our last letter of balance, E, exercise. It is so important for just mental health to get moving.
Yeah, even if it's to go for a small jog with your child around the block, and I'm moving with, maybe they take their bike out around the neighborhood, or go to the trampoline park, something to get the student moving, the child moving, refocused, redirected, and just
and sometimes this is a great time if you're like going for a walk.
Yeah.
They also might talk to you.
Yes, that is true. Because it kind of reframes your brain, right? Just reframes the whole context of where the emotions were, navigating those emotions, and opens up a space.
A safe space.
Safe space to talk about them.
So our hippy-dippy advice offers balance.
B, breathing strategies.
A, aromatherapy.
L, laughing with, not at.
A, accountability for your feelings.
N, namaste.
C, counseling from an external source as needed.
And E, exercise. Exit ticket time. Exit ticket time.
It's just middle school. SEL simply focuses on getting a child ready for the real world.
Number 2, it's just middle school. SEL promotes self-awareness, social awareness, responsible decision-making, self-management, and relationship skills.
It's just middle school. Anything to the extreme can have negative effects. It's all about balance.
Thank you for listening to our episode on social emotional learning.
This has been It's Just Middle School with Sarah
And Kelly.
Join us next time when we talk about a key element of middle school, fun.
I hope we're not being offensive to yoga people.